The economy just fell deeper into the void as economic deception increases. Hey, everybody, you're watching Bull, Boom, Bear, Bust, back with another dose of economic reality. Let's go ahead and get right into it. The news, the propaganda, the deception that the economy is doing so wonderfully, it's hit a new level. I've never seen it this twisted, this backwards, this inside out, this upside down. Everything is just the opposite of what's really happening, right? So first, let's go to some headlines here, which on the surface look very positive. But as usual, we're going to dig into the data, get into the numbers here, and see what's behind the information that's being put out there through most of the media here. And first of all, please give us a like. Hit that like button if you like what we talk about here to help get this video some traction, help to keep us alive here. The headlines out there are, a lot of them are like this. U.S. labor market just had one of its best years of the decade. 5 charts tell the story. And you get down into the article, you have experts like this person right here, quote unquote experts, telling us how great everything is. And when you get down into the chart, on the surface, it does look pretty good, especially if you look at the economy over the last 10 years. You see the number of jobs added. But why were so many more jobs added in the past few years, ever since 2020? Because the economy is so strong? Well, actually, no. People are in record levels of debt. We have another statistic out here just recently that commercial buildings foreclosing are at a 5-year high. We'll get into that here in a few minutes here. There we go. Office loan delinquencies 5-year high. So we know that things are falling apart. So why do these jobs numbers look so good as far as jobs added? That's because of the cost of living being so outrageous. A record number of people have to work multiple jobs just to make ends meet. And when somebody gets laid off and they go find a new job, that gets counted as a job added. So in this case, if you just look at the number of people getting new jobs or working new jobs, second jobs, third jobs, losing a job, getting a new job, and you add all those together as new jobs, of course it's going to look better. So in times of extreme inflation and economic turmoil, you're going to see a lot more turnover, a lot more people working more hours, multiple jobs, side hustles, gig economy. So of course, if you just look at the number of jobs, it's going to be looking pretty good. But this article and a lot of the media that I see reporting on this is not telling you zero. They're not telling you anything about the reason behind the numbers. Again, if the economy was so good, why do we have a record amount of debt for most of the population here, close to 70%, or in records amount of debt? Another awful piece of data just came out about car payments. Things just got worse as far as the car payments go. Let's go ahead and take a look here. The number of people with a monthly car note or car payment of $1,000 or more set another record. These are the fourth quarter numbers. The third quarter was a record, and now we just went up again in the fourth quarter. So now it's close to 18% of all automobile loans out there are $1,000 a month or more. So if the economy was doing so good, wouldn't people have more towards a down payment, and therefore their car notes would be less, right? So that just tells you really that everything is just the opposite. It's backwards from what's being reported out there in most of the business and financial media. And there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of examples that we can go through underpinning that the economy is really, really in big trouble, and it's going further, not just off the cliff, but further down the cliff into the ravine, down onto the rocks below. TGI Fridays, the economy is doing so good that TGI Fridays had to close 7 locations just in New Jersey alone, citing underperformance, right? More people pulling back from eating out, pulling back from the type of spending that is optional, and discretionary spending is taking a dive because people are paying more for just the essentials, paying more out of their paycheck every month just to keep a roof over their head, just to keep the car running, and just to keep food on the table. The economy is doing so good in the United States that even over in the UK, this is out of The Guardian, they are reporting the following. Americans living in their cars are finding refuge in safe parking lots. So there's so many people that can't afford rent, housing, that they have to have these safe parking lots. And here's a photo. and we see a street just lined with RVs and campers. Municipalities and nonprofits are establishing secure lots to address the rising number of people who live in cars and RVs. Again, if the economy was doing so good, why do we have a surge of homelessness, a surge of all these people having to live in RVs and tents and cars? Well, that's because there is a big difference between what's going on right now between the Wall Street economy and the Main Street economy. You have to separate the two. And I know most of you watching this, you're not fooled, you're not buying it, you understand, you get it. But most of the people that just soak up what the media is telling them, the financial media, most people are really fooled, I think, by what's going on, and they're scratching their heads, and they're probably looking at their own budgets, and they're probably saying, "Wow, they're telling us the economy is doing so good, but yet, here I am broke. Here I am with all these payments that I don't know if I'll be able to make, and I'm having to rob Peter to pay Paul. I'm having to emergency withdrawal from my 401k. I'm having to finance more and more purchases, including now just food. Most people are just putting food on credit cards, and the balances are going higher and higher. There is a segment of the population that's actually paying off their credit cards in full each month and still able to save money. But from the research that I've done here, it's less than 10%, closer to 5% of people are in that position. Well, I should say no, 15% because you have the top 10%, but then you have outside of that just about 5%. So 15% approximate total of the population are able to do that. As far as my research goes, as far as my data, if you have any other numbers, please let me know by giving us info down below. But that's what I see here. But yet we see all these news articles out there about how everything is good. The job numbers blew the lid off, right? Blew it out of the water, and it couldn't be more untrue. And the deception is just massive right now. So I wanted to put this out here to just remind people of what's really happening, behind the scenes here, and we got to read in between the headlines in these cases. And if that doesn't wake you up, 401k balances are down. Quote, last resort hardship withdrawals are up. So things continue to trend in the wrong direction if you're looking for things to improve for the people. Now, again, the Wall Street economy versus the Main Street economy, and these phony numbers they put out there, these deceptive numbers, flawed numbers, phony numbers. I mean, there's a lot of different things you could call this, but we need to be very, very careful because we could have some hard times really headed at us here. Now, if you're positioned well, you could actually benefit from this because if we see a huge market correction in the next few months, the rest of this year, I mean, I think something big is going to drop this year. Now, we continue to see these numbers get worse and worse and worse, so we know where this is headed. The question is the timing. Will it be before the end of 2024? Well, many people, including myself, would say yes, but it doesn't mean that they can't throw more fuel onto the fire and really cause inflation to burn up even more by more easy money, QE to infinity. We're talking about quantitative easing, liquidity programs for the banks, more bank rescues, um, more rescue programs. So if everyone's doing so well, if everybody was doing fine, why in 2020, just after a couple of missed paychecks, did we have to cancel foreclosures, cancel rents, cancel payments on utilities? Because hundreds of millions of people would have been in the dark if it weren't for all the rescue programs. So is that a good economy? Does that sound like a good economy where tens of millions of people would have been without power, without some sort of protection program, or tens of millions of people would have been on the streets and losing their homes if it weren't for protection programs? That doesn't sound like a good economy to me. That sounds like an economy that's dependent on ever increasing amounts of debt and money creation and debt accumulation in order just to stay operational. So to me, that's not a good economy. To some people, they think that's a good economy, but I have a different opinion on that, and I think the days are numbered for most of the people here in the United States to keep pretending that everything's good, that everything's normal, that everything's going to turn out just fine. Well, if you're on your deathbed and you're not going to be around for very long, things may be just fine up until you're gone. But for those of us that have to live maybe another 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years or more, especially the young people, you better look out because the future can hold some very, very dark things that I think we need to get ready for here. But let's get on to some other information here because I wanted to talk about this. Pepsi And Lay's, yeah, the potato chip guys, dropped by one of the world's biggest grocers over price hikes. This is over in Europe, and it's over 12,000 stores are refusing to stock these items because they're raising their prices. I wish more grocers would do this. The problem is there may not be too many other options out there. And that's the problem when you have a lot of companies that dominate the industry. You don't have many alternatives as a consumer. But when you have alternatives, and there's a lot of alternatives to drinking Pepsi and eating Lay's potato chips, then stores can do this because there's many other brands that they can actually stock on the shelves. So they're refusing to stock these items because of price hikes. France-based Carrefour, one of the world's largest grocery chains, told customers Thursday it's pulling Lay's, Doritos, Lipton tea, other PepsiCo products in protest of increased prices. So isn't that nice that we see a retailer actually doing this? Now, to some people, they would say, why bother? Because people can go in and see the price and choose not to buy it. But maybe if they don't stock those things, that will send a signal to those companies to stop raising their prices. And I mean, maybe it'll make people realize that they can live without this junk. A lot of times it's junk. I mean, potato chips. If you look at the ingredients, there's like 30 different ingredients in potato chips. All the stuff that can't even pronounce all these words. So maybe it'll wake people up and have people start making healthier food choices. I doubt it, but maybe there'll be some good news that comes out of it here. Another piece of very interesting and very important news here for people looking for the rate cuts to come in and give us a soft landing here in 2024. Well, when they look at the data, they may not end up cutting rates. U.S. job growth beats expectations. Back to what we talked about at the beginning of this video, the central planners are going to be looking at these jobs numbers, which are really flawed, really erroneous, phony, misleading, and they're going to be looking at these numbers and saying, "Wow, look at the great job growth," without realizing all the things that we talked about earlier. The reason why it looks like there's good job growth, all these second jobs, third jobs, gig economy jobs, people getting laid off, taking on new jobs, all gets racked up as new jobs. The central planners are just going to look at the numbers and they're just going to say, wow, everything's good. Look at all this job growth. And that could be the deciding factor in not cutting rates. They're going to use this false economic indicator possibly as a reason to not cut rates. And that's going to be another nail in the coffin for the U.S. economy. And, look out below because we could see some big things pop off and drop off here in 2024. So be ready for both directions. They could hyperinflate this thing at the click of a mouse. They could create trillions of dollars and throw it at the problem, fuel on the fire. And you have to look out for Zimbabwe, Venezuela type of situation, Lebanon, all these countries that we saw, massive inflation slash hyperinflation. Be ready for that. They could completely destroy the U.S. dollar with inflation. But we also have to be on our toes here and look out for deflationary situations and buying opportunities slash investment opportunities and play it from both sides. So that's what I continue to do. I think you are as well. I'd like to hear from you down in the comments. What do you think about these numbers here? And the odds now are lower of rate cuts with these jobs numbers because, again, the central planners are going to say, hey, these are great numbers. Why cut rates? Everything's fine. But in the background, things are dropping off a cliff. And in fact, they're already off of a cliff. They're just bouncing down the cliff now, searching for the bottom. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Keep stacking. We'll talk to you very soon. Bye for now. Peace.